Good evening, everyone. This is the community engagement meeting of the Central Middle School Building Committee, as well as as a public hearing. I'm going to call the meeting to order now at 7:02 and invite everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. First of all, welcome. Many of you have braved the low double digit weather to be here. Most people are online, however. But regardless, we really appreciate your interest in staying informed about the progress on the Central Middle School. As I have always said in opening these meetings, is that we are here for you. We want to be sure to take your questions, which I'm going to talk about the process for that in just a few minutes. But we want to be able to take your questions. Later, we'll have an opportunity to hear from the public on any comments you want to share with the committee. But before I get into the mechanics of the meeting, I want to be sure to update everyone. We have 2 new members now on the committee as a result of the previous election just finished. One, Stephanie Cowie has been on the committee up to this point as one of the people from the First Selectmen's Advisory Committee on people with disabilities. And Stephanie now is the official RTM representative of the Public Works Committee on RTM. So we want to be sure she's on the far end, you're far right. We welcome Stephanie. Also, Harry Fisher is now the BET is now an ex officio member of our committee. As you know, there are several governmental bodies in town that have representatives on the committee that are ex officio. So Harry has asked that he be the representative from the BET. As you also know, that Harry is the new chairman of the BET. And Harry is not here tonight. He has another engagement, but I want to be sure to welcome Harry as well. So Steph and Harry, welcome to the team. We also have other members of the building committee in the audience tonight. If I could ask you to please stand. We just lost 2 that walked out the door. So down front is Laura Costin. Waving in the back of the room is Joe Rossetti. I point those 2 out. So if you want to corner someone for about a half hour after the meeting, please talk with those 2 about that. I want to talk for a moment about our agenda. If we could bring up the first slide regarding the agenda. First, as you know, up to this point, we have hired 3 professionals to help us in this effort. First is Construction Solutions Group. Jim Giuliano is recovering from COVID, the president of that firm, but he is online tonight. Turner Construction, no relation. To my immediate right is Tim Kleps. Tim is the project executive from Turner Construction. You're going to be hearing from Tim later this evening. And then the architect on our professionals team, the last 2 gentlemen on my far right, your far left, Kemp Morehart and Jim Hoagland. You'll be hearing more from them a little later. So from the agenda, you can see we have some very basic items that we want to cover, but a couple of things regarding the mechanics of the meeting. As I said earlier, we do want to hear from everyone if you have any questions. And the way we're doing that is we're using a system called the Mentimeter. You had the opportunity to get the QR code on one of the tables outside. It's going to be up on the slide. Well, it's up on the slide now. What we would like to do is to have you send in your questions via Mentimeter after we finish each of the topics that you see on the screen. So building and site design update, we'll have a presentation on that. Then we will pause for a minute or so and ask you to send in your questions via Mentimeter. and we'll be sure to group those accordingly at the end of the evening. The reason we use Mentimeter and really leveraging technology is because we don't want anyone to not be able to ask a question. So if you will ask your question by Mentimeter, using your smartphone, or by using one of the note cards with a pencil that we left on the outside table, we will be very sure to get your question answered. And the way we do that is the professionals and the building committee take a look at all the questions. We commit and have always done this. We will answer every question that's sent in, and we will post the answers to the questions on the Central Middle School building website. And if you look today, you'll see that we've answered over the course of 4 community engagement meetings and 1 public hearing, we've answered over 200 questions. So that's our methodology as to how we go about that. Our mode tonight is not a question and answer between public and the committee. It is sending them in so that we can all be thoughtful about the responses. However, in the public hearing component of our meeting, we will ask you to come forward. Those of you that have signed up to speak, share with us your thoughts and concerns, ideas, accolades, whatever you would like to do. We're going to limit each speaker to 3 minutes, which is what our standard has been. Enough about the mechanics. I just want to be very, very sure to emphasize again, we're here for you. We want to hear from you along the way. Let me begin the conversation, and then I'm going to turn it over to Slam. I am very excited because tonight is the first time we're going to begin to talk about safety. And Steph Cowie is going to lead a panel here coming up shortly, and she's going to be introducing our building committee members that either are parents or have been parents of kids either in this school or others in the district. We still plan to start construction in October. So we have plenty of time to work on the details of a safety plan, but you're going to hear our beginning thoughts tonight about that safety plan with the view of our beginning to include parents and teachers and PTA officers from CMS, and I think we'll probably include Tom along the way about developing a very, very fine-tuned safety plan going forward. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Slam to talk about building and site design update.
Great, thanks, Tony. So we've been involved in this project for over a year now. We've had hundreds of meetings with the building committee, the DRC. We're now in front of regulatory agencies through the town. It's been a great process to go through. So I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes to show everybody where we are currently with the design, where we stand. And many of these images will hopefully be familiar to you because the building has evolved over the last few community engagement forums. There's been a nice level of development. And most recently, we've been in front of planning and zoning, architectural review committee. So the design team has been very, very diligent about developing the images that you're going to see this evening. I'm going to run through the images and kind of give you an idea of where we stand in the design process. This is an image that I think depicts the building pretty well. It's actually a view from the parent drop as a parent traverses from south to north towards the new building. This would be the view of a parent and student that would be arriving in the morning just before drop off. And you can see the use of materials that we've worked with a DRC with. You can see the breaking down of scale of the building. We've had lots and lots of input and feedback from the public, from the committee members, and what you're seeing on screen this evening is really just a compilation of all those thoughts coming together and developing into a really well-refined building that I think is working really well for all the end users that we've been speaking with. Go to the palette of materials. This has been a pretty robust conversation over the last month or so, being in front of the Architectural Review Committee and P&Z. We've also had some neighborhood meetings. This is a palette of materials that was decided fairly early on in the process. And one of the driving factors for the palette of materials was the feel of the site. The existing site is really well wooded. There's lots of natural rock outcroppings there. And when we felt that the architectural character of the new building should fit into that site really well. So the materials that you see here, the stone veneer, the use of natural wood in some of the structure for the building, as well as cementitious wall panels that really reflect a wood grain and make it feel like wood plank in certain parts of the exterior of the building. This palette of materials was determined fairly early on, and we've been applying it throughout the design process. I just wanted to get that up in front of everybody because as you see the renderings of different parts of the building, that very simple palette of material replicates itself throughout the building in really nice ways. The upper drawing here, the rendering that you see at the top part, is actually the north side of the building. There are three academic wings or academic pods that will house the 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade, respectively. And once again, you can see how that natural palette of materials gets applied to the different boxes that represent each of the academic pods. Can also see the use of natural materials in some of the site furniture. You can see in that upper drawing, there's a couple of logs just laying on the ground. That's an outdoor learning environment, and we're trying to reuse some of the trees that are coming down on site as we make way for the new building and repurpose those for site furniture, things like that. And so you'll see details like that get spread throughout the site and the development of the building. The lower rendering depicts the bus entry, and this is actually coming in off Orchard. We've developed a new one-way bus loop. So as students arrive in the buses in the morning, this is how they would enter the site off of Orchard. And you see the east side of the building, the far east side of the building, and you begin to see how the academic pods kind of fit into the slope of the natural slope of the site. And then as we kind of work our way around the building, I'm going to go through a series of renderings. This is a view from the parent loop. So as parents arrive and staff arrive on a school day, they would enter the site off of Indian Rock Lane, the exact current curb cut where the existing entry is. They would come up a long entry drive, and this would be the view as they kind of come around the last corner, turn and bend in that access road, and this is what they would see. You can see the far left-hand side, the gymnasium has a stone base with some glass up top to get some natural light into that gymnasium. You can see the entry pieces. We have a main entry and then a public community entry for the gymnasium and cafeteria side of the building. And you can see how the palette of materials gets applied in some relatively smaller blocks of the building. One of the goals of the design team was to create this building that felt a little bit smaller in scale than it really was. You know, we're looking at a 130,000 square foot building, and we wanted it to feel like an assemblage of smaller elements. And I think the palette of materials and how it's been applied to these different boxes, the program boxes throughout the building, helps with the scale. As we get a little bit closer to the building, you can begin to see some of the detail that the design team has incorporated into the thinking. So as a student gets out of the car that they're arriving at, parents would drop them and then loop back around and go off to work. The students would walk in, and this was a secure entry. This is the main entry for the building. You can see there's some building signage off to the right-hand side, Central Middle School, and that stone block is actually the administrative offices. So there's a really clear sense of security. So as people arrive on site, this is the only way that they're going to be able to access the building throughout the entire course of the day. It is a secure entry. Visitors would be allowed into the vestibule. They're going to have to check in go through a badging process, and then be allowed into the building for a meeting or whatever they're there for as far as their business. But you can see how the wood planking in the middle portion of this rendering begins to soften the feel and really warm the feel of the building. You can see how the natural material fits together, the stone, the wood, the glass, as well as some of the structural elements that we're actually making out of real wood. We're using some heavy timber columns, some heavy timber beams, and we've introduced some cross-laminate timber ceilings. So you can see how that begins to replicate itself through most of the public pieces of the building. This is just a view looking from above. You're never really going to see the building like this, but I think it demonstrates the breadth of environmental aspects that we've introduced to the building. You can see all the photovoltaic panels that have been proposed for the roofs. We've tried to clear as many of the roofs as we can from big boxy mechanical equipment. We did hear very early on in the process from many of the neighbors that they really didn't want to see big box rooftop units up there. So we've tried to do the best job we can to hide all those big mechanical units, some on the roof and some inside the building. But you can see how the boxes of all the program elements begin to fit together like a puzzle. And I think this is a unique view kind of looking down. It gives you a really good idea of the scale of the building and how nicely it fits into the slope. You can see all the trees lining the upper portion of this rendering, which is behind the building. It's actually the north side of the building. And we're trying to retain as many of those trees to the north side to screen the neighbors up to the north. To get into the floor plans, it is a two-story building. The first floor houses most of the community-oriented spaces. So you can see over on the right-hand side where that blue block of space is, that's the main office. I had mentioned the main entry, so you can see the vestibule that comes in. That would be the secure vestibule. All the students and staff, we are anticipating arriving in that door, and any visitors during the course of the day would also arrive there, check into the main office. So the blue block that you see on the right-hand side houses the main office, a lot of counseling spaces, as well as the school nurse. In the middle portion of the building here, the middle wedge, is the auditorium. That's really the highlight of all the community spaces, and it's designed to really replicate the space that we're in this evening. It's going to be a 530 seat auditorium, and we've surrounded that with the choral room, the band room, orchestra room, all those music program spaces. After speaking with the teachers and the end users, it was important to surround the performing space with all those performing classrooms. And then over on the far left-hand side, the green space, that's the gymnasium. So you can see the major corridor that runs between the gymnasium and the auditorium is intended to be that after-hours access. So if there's something big going on in the cafeteria, gym, or auditorium, we can open up that western access point and control who comes and goes throughout the building, especially for after hours use. There are a series of cross corridor doors throughout the building. So if only the gym is being used on a Saturday per se, we can close off the entire rest of the building through cross corridor doors and then open up that gym for community use. And they would still have access to the locker rooms, the bathrooms, the public bathrooms across the hallway, and have access in and out of that big long corridor. The cafeteria is tucked in the upper left corner here. They have an outdoor dining area directly outside the cafeteria. There's a big glass wall there. You can see how the kitchen backs up. And then this is the end of the building where all of our daily deliveries are going to come. So kitchen deliveries as well as building supplies will be delivered down this end of the building. There's extensive custodial spaces and storage spaces. Building storage will be housed down this end of the building. Going back to the middle portion of the building, you can see the media center. That's pushed back into the heart of the building, and the academic pods are actually located above on the second floor. So one of the ideas was that the media center wanted to be equidistant from all the students. So as we get up to the second floor, I think you'll be able to see how students come down from the academic pods down through the main staircases and have direct access into the media center, so that they can do, their various activities in that space. Over on the far right-hand side, we have a bunch of specialty spaces. So the students will travel from the academic pods down to the first floor, and that's where families consumer science is. The innovation lab and wood shop are paired up together, as well as the art room. Moving up to the second floor, you can see how the 3 academic pods are identical, and they're kind of spread out and pushed back into the topography of the site. So you can see the far right-hand pod would house 2 6th grade teams. The middle pod houses 2 7th grade teams, and the far left-hand pod houses the 2 8th grade teams. In between each of those pods is a series of what we're calling team captains or floor captains. So there will be an assistant principal located there, as well as some support spaces. So social workers, some guidance counselors and things like that. Some adults will be located in the knuckles in between each and every one of those academic pods. And those positions actually offer some really good supervision over the stairs that are located that the students will use to get up and down between the second and first floors. Getting into the site design a little bit, and just to orient everybody, the lower part of this drawing is Indian Rock Lane, and where it's labeled main entry is actually where the existing main entry currently is today. Over on the right-hand side of the drawing is Orchard Street. The left-hand side is Stanwich. So where you see the existing play fields, the softball field, baseball field, and rectangular play field is where the existing building sits today. So we're proposing to build the new building as far north as we can get it, pushing it into some of the existing topography. So that will actually take up the place where the existing play fields are today. Once that building gets built, we'll take down this building, the existing building, and develop the athletic play fields. So you can see from the main entry at the bottom of this drawing, there is a new main access. So that is the parent loop. So as parents arrive at the building, they would come in the main entry and then traverse up this long queue, have a circle right by the front door where they would drop their student off, and then parents would come back down and exit it back out onto Indian Rock Lane. Most of the staff parking is also located along this. So in the morning, staff would arrive, park here, and then walk up into the building. One of the big fundamental changes that we found quite advantageous when we developed the site was to separate the buses and parents. Right now, with both of those access points off of Indian Rock Lane and almost no queuing space, we know that the traffic really backs up along Indian Rock Lane and oftentimes up around Orchard. So I think the introduction of this long queuing lane is going to help that. The other thing that helps is pulling buses in off of Orchard. So we have a brand new one-way bus loop. So the buses will come in Orchard at this point in the plan. Have a one-way loop. They'll come driving right up, stop here, drop students right at the front door, and then exit through a one-way loop back out onto Orchard. There is a small staff parking lot, and this will all be limited. The general public will not be allowed to traverse this driveway during pickup and drop-off points during the day. There's also a fire lane that comes up around the north side of the building, comes up and then drops back down into the service area in this area. And then in the case of an emergency, those fire trucks or police vehicles would have access around 360 degrees of the building and then back out into the regular vehicular circulation route. As I mentioned, the athletic fields are replicating the program that's currently here. There's a full-size baseball field, full-size softball field, which operate independently. And then there's an overlapping rectangular field for soccer. We had an extensive conversation with the tree warden and with some of the new landscaping regulations that we had to follow as we got into planning and zoning. So we just wanted to get some of these unique planting materials in front of you. We're looking at planting some large evergreen trees. We're going to do a lot of deciduous shade trees, as well as some lower growing deciduous shrubs. And the design team took some extensive actions to try to show what this screening and landscaping would look like. These are some of the drawings that we've presented to Planning Zoning and ARC. So it gives you an idea. This is actually a view from the intersection of Stanwich and Indian Rock Lane, looking back north towards the school. So you can see the extensive landscaping that is being planted here as screening and buffering per the new landscaping regulations. The larger trees that you see here are actually photoshopped in. Those are actually existing trees on that corner, and you can see the taller evergreens on this portion of the rendering that are also existing to remain. So we're trying to keep as many of the existing trees around the periphery of the site to accommodate some of those screening requirements, and planting a lot of lower screening material in and under those existing full-grown trees. This would be another view, more over closer to Ponderosa Drive, looking north across Indian Rock Lane. So once again, we're utilizing as many of the existing trees that we can along that side of the site, and supplementing it with a lot of undergrowth and some new plantings there. This is just a view coming out of the bus loop. So this is on Orchard Street, looking back to the west, and this is how the buses come out, and you can see the building kind of tucked in nicely to the trees in the middle portion here. That's just the gym popping up. That's the gym volume there, but you can see how all those natural trees, we try to maintain as many of them as we can. Except where we're building the building, where we're taking down some significant trees, which has been a topic of conversation as we get through the regulatory process. So the other thing that we've talked about a lot with the neighbors is the type of lighting that we are anticipating introducing to the site. So this is just a diagram where you see the building, all the play fields, the parking, and then all the yellow dots are 14-foot poles with full cutoff fixtures, LED fixtures spread throughout the site. We can certainly come back to any of these if people have questions. And I think at this point, I'll turn it over to Tim.
And before Tim talks about the project timeline update, just to circle back, if you have any questions that you would like to submit via Mentimeter on any of the things that you've heard Slam talk about, we would ask that you send those in now. Or if you don't have your smartphone and you want to use an index card with one of the pencils in the back, if you can just bring up your index card, we'll be sure to get that in the record so that we can answer that. Also, people online, you can also use the QR code for the Mentimeter. But if you will, please send those in now so that we can keep them grouped together. Okay, Tim Kleps, the project executive with Turner Construction. Tim?
Thank you, Tony. So just to give everyone a brief update of where we are today and where we're going over the next year. Starting with the December of last year, Slam had delivered the design development documents. Those are currently in estimating. They're being estimated both by Turner and by Slam independently. Those estimates are due to be delivered on the 29th of January. From there, we will be reconciling those estimates together to be able to produce one estimate. We'll deliver that to the building committee for their review and evaluation and update of the budget and where we stand today. Moving forward, Slam had started the completion of the construction documents in early January. That is planned to be completed for early April. That set is what we call a plan completion review set for the state process. It gets us a set of documents that we could release to the local reviews and sign-offs. So that'll take place in the months of April and May. And at the same time, concurrently, we'll be preparing bid documents. That's Turner preparing bid documents. So that way, when we go through the plan completion review with the state, they give us the approval to go out to bid. We are prepared. We have the bid documents ready to go, and we go out to bid at the end of May, early June. From there, we'll go through the bidding and award period. That here is about a 4 to 5 month period to be able to start the process, go through the bidding period, receive the bids. Again, we go through and we'll level all those bids. We'll produce a guaranteed maximum price, and we'll deliver that to the town of Greenwich as well for approval. Once that's approved, we'll go forward and award the contracts. All to get started, as Tony had said earlier, in October. October 9th is our current projected start date. And then we head right into phase 1, which is the construction of the new building.
Okay, Tim, thank you. Someone has suggested that we put the original agenda slide back up just for a couple minutes. Can we go back to that? Because it has the QR code on it. And if there's anyone in our broadcast audience at home and you would like to use the QR code on the agenda slide, you should be able to aim your smartphone right to your screen and pull the Mentimeter right up. So let's keep that up just a little more. Give it a little more time so that there's people online that would like to do that, they can. Next is project cost analysis. I'm going to talk just very briefly about that. If we could now go to that slide. Is that up? Okay. So there's a couple of things that I wanted to be sure to point out to everyone. First of all, is the headline that you see here: analysis of new school project costs with escalations, August 23rd of 2023. These are real numbers. And these are the cost numbers that we took both to the BET and the RTM in very late October for approval. As you know, approximately $70 million had been approved up to that point, with an additional interim funding number of $42,017,000. We do want to communicate to the community tonight that these numbers are still holding. And one of the things that Turner Construction is doing literally every 2 weeks is rechecking these numbers in the marketplace. So one of the things that we're always keeping a very, very close eye on is movement in the markets, be it labor overages, labor shortages, global markets in construction, and what local materials or regional materials are costing. So we're very excited about that because these numbers have been holding now for almost 6 months. And hopefully as the economy is doing what it's doing, we may be able to get some better pricing. We don't know that yet, but these numbers are still good. It's one thing I want to be sure to communicate. And the other is that the 3 columns that you see beginning with the second column from the left, the cost in today's dollars. You can see the different breakdowns of the cost number, including soft costs, which are primarily the professional fees for the effort, architects, construction manager at risk, and so forth. The second column is costs with escalation factor. This is where we have included inflation in the increasing costs that we are expecting over time. And at the very bottom of that column now, the third one from the left, you can see $112,017,000, I'm rounding. Anticipated project state reimbursement, $7.1 million, to give a net cost to the town of $104 million. And then you can see the difference that we've allotted for in escalation over on the fourth column from the left. So just an update. We think this is very, very significant that we keep you informed on this. Next is starting construction, the phase-in and the logistics plan. This will be led by Turner Construction. So I'm going to turn it back over to Tim.
All right, thank you again. I'll start by saying that, the current project will be constructed in two phases, as been alluded to earlier. Right, we have the first part of the construction, which will be the building of the new academic building, and then we'll do the abatement, the demolition, and the fields in phase two. Those are the two main large phases that we have. I'd also like to say that it's very common for this approach in school construction as well as other construction projects where we do have active facilities on the same property where we're doing construction. Tony had said earlier when he opened up, he was talking about the safety and the safety committee that'll talk after this. These phasing logistics plans are the primary role of these are for the safety of the staff, the students of the school, as well as the community. We look at this for a clear delineation and an immediate delineation between construction and the community. Again, I'm sure these are hard to see both online and up here on the screen. These are 2 plates of over 10 plates of logistics plans that we created now at the design development stage. These will be further developed as we continue to head towards construction. And then when we get into construction, we'll be working very closely with the school administration as well as the community to further communicate each step in each phase of the construction process. Just briefly here, as you see this over on the left-hand side, my left-hand side, the phase 1, you'll see the fence line, which is the outline that you see around it. That really uses the tennis courts that are out back. We come to about the corner of those tennis courts. We wrap around the newest addition to the school. The building is within about 40 feet of the corner of that building. We wrap around with our construction fence. We do have overhead protection. We have high debris netting. We have window film that we're calling out on those windows in that new addition, the newest addition, I should say. Window film where the students can see out, but our crew can't see in. We're looking at things like where the dumpsters go, where we have our materials delivered. We're using the new curb cuts that you see over on the right-hand side off of Orchard Street. Then you could look over to my right-hand side here, and you look at the second phase of work. Now, there are some other interim phases between when we finish, but the ultimate goal is to be able to get the parent drop-off open as quickly as possible, where they are entering at the final location. Buses are entering and exiting at their final location, and we are again isolated with a clear delineation between our activities and the community and school activities outside of that.
Thank you, Tim. So up to this point, if you could send in any questions that you have regarding the project cost update, starting construction with the phase-in slides that you just saw, well, that would be very helpful, again, to make sure that we can record all your questions, get all of them answered, and then post them on the Central Middle School Building Committee website. Next, I want to connect back to where I opened the meeting earlier to talk about safety. We are in January. We do plan, as you see, or as you saw earlier, to start construction in October. So we're early to talk about safety, but believe me, I'd rather be early to talk about safety than late. So what we've obviously done by the next panel you're going to hear from is we've started our conversations about safety. We think is very, very important. The conversations about safety will never end. During construction, there'll be conversations about safety after construction, planting of the fields and so forth. So as we continue to have building committee meetings, but more importantly, additional community engagement forums down the road, you're going to continue to hear more and more about safety. So tonight, Steph Cowie is going to host a panel of building committee members to talk about their view from both a principal standpoint with Tom Healy and also a parent standpoint As I said earlier, Steph is the new Public Works representative on the RTM, having been newly elected to the RTM in this past election, a former PTA president here at CMS. Obviously, with that, has had a student here at CMS. So I don't think we could have anyone more qualified being on the building committee than to have a familiar face to lead a panel to talk about safety. So Steph, with that, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Tony. I appreciate it. So I have a wonderful panel here tonight, and we're very excited to share some things, but I wanted to introduce you to each of them. So I'll start first with Tom Healy.
Hi, everybody. Tom Healy, principal of Central Middle School and current parent, although my son will not be here when the new building is here.
And then Claire Kilgallen.
Hi, I'm Claire Kilgallen. I'm on the building committee. I'm a vice chair. I also served on the New Lebanon Building Committee and had students, my own children, going through that construction process.
And then Christina Posha.
Hi, my name is Christina Posha. Can you hear me okay? I am on the central, I'm on the building committee. I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. Both are planned to go to the Central Middle School. I'm very excited for them to go to a new school, and I'm proud to be a part of building it.
And as Tony had mentioned, that this is a panel that is tonight beginning, and we'll continue on through the process leading up to October 2024 when we break ground, and clearly it'll get a little more busier. But we thought it might be best to just give you a quick overview of what we're going to be doing and moving forward, what else we could add. And please, if you have any questions or additions of information, obviously send it to the Central Middle School Building Committee.ctinfo@gmail.com. So with that, I am going to pass this over to Tom Healy, who will share some information regarding the operations of the school.
Can we just ask Mike Antonaccio if he could stop sharing screen?
So my plan today is just to kind of speak to what the expectations are going forward from the school side of things, as I know that in essence, this is going to be an ongoing conversation with Tim and the construction team, as well as our school safety officials, Director of Safety and Security, as well as our SROs. But ultimately, when it comes to construction safety, what's really great about the slides that we just saw is, in essence, we have two operational sites that are independent of each other on the same property. So the nice idea of putting the fence between the two places and not having the construction really overlap with our daily operations should limit the impact of what is going on around the building. But I know we will have a weekly meeting with myself and any other school staff that would need to be a part of those meetings, such as my PE staff, my sports directors, or people monitoring recess or anything else, to discuss what would be going on, at least on a weekly basis, on our site, and how that may or may not impact what will be transpiring during our school day. I know there have been a lot of questions about noise, and delivery of different equipment and things like that. And I know we will coordinate those outside of our drop off and pickup time. And obviously anything that is majorly potentially disruptive in terms of noise, I'm sure we're scheduling outside of prime educational hours. So the nice thing is, obviously, we have our school calendar and school break calendar way ahead of time, and being able to stay in constant contact with the construction team. I know the school side and the building committee will advocate for certain things happening at times when the students aren't in the building, to even further increase the level of safety and thought that goes into the phasing of the construction of the project. But ultimately, as the principal, my expectation is that I'm meeting with the construction team, at least, as I said, on a weekly basis, to understand what is going on that week, so we can have a conversation as to what is happening at the school and what adjustments might need to be made throughout that week. And then I currently already keep a weekly communication to our school community in conjunction with the PTA. And my expectation would be that there would be a specific call out section in our weekly newsletter that provided a week by week update of what was happening on the site, what would be going on, to address any general questions that may come up, but also to keep people abreast of what's happening, and then link back to all of our building committee documents and any other resources that the community might find of interest. And then obviously leaving time in general PTA meetings, parent welcome meetings, parent orientation meetings to share the information to those families, as well as respond to any questions or anything that comes up, as we do anyway. So my expectation is that this is just going to be an ongoing and ever evolving conversation, and that the most important thing to keep everybody safe and comfortable with the process is to keep open, transparent communication and to be very responsive to any questions or concerns that arise throughout the process.
Tom, we understand that obviously you do a lot through the s'mores and your weekly communication. How will you reach the feeder schools?
So already I have a very good relationship with my fellow principals, but also I know that our PTAs work very closely, the executive boards at Central Middle Schools, PTA, and the feeder schools. So I think the best way to do that would be to not only share that information with them to include in whatever periodic communications they have, but we have also in the past actually gone to PTA meetings at the feeder schools in order to speak directly to the communities and to the parents and answer any questions they have. So I would imagine that would continue as well.
And I know that there were some questions earlier this evening. I heard someone talking about it as well, but about building in place with schools. And I think Claire and Christina, you might be able to provide some additional information.
Sure. So my background is in construction and design. I've worked with a number of different building with phasings of construction. It's very, very common practice. With schools, it's common practice, but with general, any kind of project, it's very common. I think we're in an ideal state where we're actually not doing construction within the same building. So we don't have to create kind of a demarc line within the current building that we're in. We actually have a fenced area for a new build with a new school that's a clear indication to separate the two sites, so that we can make sure that there's no, for lack of a better term, cross-contamination. So the construction folks will live in their construction site. Central Middle School folks will live in their Central Middle School site. And it's very common. I feel very confident in it.
And that's been my experience too at New Lebanon. So for those who aren't familiar, New Lebanon broke ground in 2017. And it was a similar stay in place adjacent to and very close to the construction. And the students stayed in place. The area was fenced off. The active area was where the new school was being constructed, similar to this. Then after that was built, the students moved into the new building. Demolition then began in the new activated site, which was the place of the old building. That was demolished. And then the third phase was the rest of the site work for the fields and playgrounds. So safety has been, I know we're talking about it as a special highlight tonight and as an ongoing conversation as we get closer to the activities. But I just wanted people to know that from when we first started meeting in July of almost 2 years ago now, safety has been paramount to every single member of this committee and all of the professionals. So just want to know that we care as much about the children in the building as the parents whose children will be attending. I can tell you that I don't want to jump ahead, but do you want me to talk about the experience of that? I had 2 of my children go through construction. They were at the groundbreaking ceremony. They were at the topping off ceremony. One of my children was in the school long enough to see it as a student. And I was deeply embedded at the school at the time. The experience of the children, all the children, was phenomenal. It's a great opportunity for them to see a building literally rise from the ground from start to finish. And I think there are some great opportunities. And I know we have partners in all of our professionals, but I know that Turner and the architects will be lending themselves to have that kind of connection with the students as appropriate. You know, for in-service, they don't just walk into the building unless they're cleared with Tom Healy. So to Christina's point, the personnel issue is totally separate, but there are great learning opportunities to inspire future designers for kids to understand why they need to know math, you know, when they're trying to move furniture or do inventory. All of those elements are great learning opportunities for our kids.
That leads a good question. And Tom, so how do you see that this building could be added to your curriculum on a daily basis?
Well, as Claire mentioned, I think that the fortunate thing is that the location of the construction and the protection area versus the location of the building is we will be able to, for many of our classrooms, see over the fencing and actually into the active site. And I can see not only connections to math, but also connections to our science curriculum and the next generation science standards, looking at ecosystems, looking at rock formations in the rock cycle and other elements that are being impacted by the work and how those issues may be addressed, mitigated, what questions were asked. Obviously, there's been a lot of questions about that over the course of this project. We also have a technology engineering class. I could see a lot of discussion about how the interior of the building was designed, what software was used. And I do know that all of our professionals, have already in many ways worked with our students by doing focus groups and things like that. So I can really actually see bringing that in. And we already have a history of trying to make our learning more authentic and meaningful for kids by showing them what it is like for actual practicing professionals to develop this. So I see a lot of dialogue happening, and I do think it would be inspirational for our students to see this project come through. So there are many areas where I feel like this will present itself to our students across multiple disciplines.
Would you say there are any concerns with the health and staff of students while building is happening? And maybe Christina, you might have some information you could share.
Yes, so the one thing I'm very confident about is we've partnered up with Turner Construction, and they're a pretty prestigious construction company that is very well known as many other construction companies when you're of that size, that there's safety procedures and precautions that are taken. They actually have a complete division of a safety organizer or a manager that's designated on site. They do safety inspections. They make sure that everybody's using the correct harness, that they're doing the work in accordance to OSHA standards, and that making sure that we're adhering to all of the requirements that we should be adhering to, and then also making sure that everybody is as safe as possible, the people working on the site as well as the students.
Tom, will your emergency evacuation plan change in any way?
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
And here we go.
So currently, our plans will not change. We work very closely with the District Director of Safety and Security. We have a thorough response plan were we ever to need to evacuate the site entirely, and we can do so very quickly and get information out to parents as to where they can rendezvous with their children and everything. I don't want to go into details about that because I don't know from a security standpoint how much I'm supposed to share. But what I can tell you is that, from evacuating our entire school student body and staff and getting them to a nearby facility that will keep us until everyone can be relocated. The plans that we have currently in place can mobilize that in less than about 20-30 minutes.
And how about Tom, about school recess and also any other sporting events because of the fields?
So that is something that we really are going to be working closely on. Fortunately or unfortunately, we're not the first school to have lost fields, so we're not blazing a brand new trail, but it is something that we are able to start thinking about now. Obviously, it is not going to be ideal for our PE curriculum and our sports teams to be without fields for a number of years. But we do have areas in the town where we will be looking to share space. And I know that the district has budgeted for extra transportation to bring our teams to other fields for practices and for games. My sports director, who is closely invested in this particular project and everything that goes along with it, and I are speaking almost daily already about what our plan is going to be to ensure that the students have the best possible situation. One nice thing that we saw recently in the plans is it looks like our tennis courts are still going to be available to us. which our PE staff has really done a wonderful job transforming into an outdoor PE space, gymnasium almost space. And so we're very excited that we're not losing those. But some of the details in terms of where our students will be practicing and when they'll be practicing are yet to be determined. But again, we are not doing this for the first time. So we work closely with the town Parks and Rec department and our district to budget for that and make sure that the students will have their experience. Unfortunately, we'll probably have to play a number of away games, but I feel confident that we can still bring home plenty of banners, right, Mrs. Tarantino?
Tom, how about the organization with Turner on, is it a daily basis you mentioned? Is it a weekly and will you be reporting that out on a weekly basis as to what's happening?
Currently, I would anticipate it would probably be like a Monday morning standing meeting to discuss what's going on for the week. And then would anything need to be met about again as an adjustment needs to be made, that would be sort of on the fly. But my expectation would be that we'd be meeting at least probably Monday mornings to go over what's going to be done for the week. And I could share that out. If we could do that the week before, and I could include that in my Friday note that I mentioned, that'll be the case. But we'll kind of have to see what works for everybody's schedule and how we can kind of have an overview of that. And I can get that out to the parents as quickly as possible so everybody understands what's going to be happening on the site for that particular week.
Just to add on, something we did with the New Lebanon project, once construction started, we had a monthly newsletter that went out. It was in close coordination with the construction folks so that we could give a preview of what was happening for the next 4 weeks. So it's a higher level than the every day of what Tom is experiencing, but just to have the community understand where things are. So that was helpful and well received.
So the design review committee has been working on exterior and interior, whether it's landscaping or interior colors, anything like that of the rugs. But there are questions about, and people have seen them all around Central Middle School, the Central Middle School tiles, and as well as Maria's garden and the plan to preserve both.
Yes. So honoring the traditions of Central is very important to us. As somebody who went to Central and has a tile, I understand how important they are. So we are continuing to discuss how we're going to honor that tile project and those time capsules in some way in the new building. Currently, the conversations have to do with capturing them through photography and integrating those images throughout different wall spaces in the new building. It is yet to be completely decided upon, but I can assure people that having some way to display through an image what these tiles are and represent from the old school to the new school will be very important. Additionally, Maria's garden, for those who don't know, there is a memorial garden out front for Maria Ferreri, who was a student here who passed away a number of years ago. And her family had worked closely with the staff at the time to have a memorial garden out front. So as the site plan develops, we are still, I think, not 100% sure on exactly where it's going to go. But there will be a very clear space near the front of the building that will serve as Maria's Memorial Garden, and it will be something that will continue, again, the tradition of that Maria Ferreri space from the old building to the new building.
And we've also been in touch with the family. So as things develop, we will circle back with them to share the designs and make sure they're happy.
And I know that everybody's ready to mark their calendar for the groundbreaking ceremony. Is there one?
There will be one, and I know I will be work closely with everybody involved to make sure that it is a momentous and celebratory occasion. I'm sure there will be shovels and hard hats, but that's all I know for right now.
Thank you. And thank you to the panel, and thank you for all coming tonight. But we're very excited to continue this panel moving forward and adding additional elements as we get closer to each day of opening these doors. So we thank you so much. And now I'd like to turn it back to Tony.
Steph, thank you. And one of the things that I've always been excited about is to know that we have parents of CMS kids on the committee or former GPS students on the committee. So they know, we know firsthand what we're up against when it comes to student safety. So thanks everyone for your contribution. I'm curious as to who's going to pay for the shovels and the hard hats, because we clearly don't have the budget for that. But we'll have that discussion later. You can see Slam and Turner both looking at each other over here. Friendly reminder to please send in your questions on the Mentimeter. Or if you're using the index card and the pencils, we'll take those. Anyone here can receive those, and we'll be sure to get them in the record. So please send those in. We have two more items on our agenda. One is next steps, and this will take literally 15 seconds. I want to be sure that we all leave with understanding exactly what the next steps are. We've given you an absolute ton of information tonight, but there's three key next steps. One is to finish local regulatory approval. We need to go back to planning and zoning for their final sign off. We need to have at least one other meeting with the Architectural Review Committee, which, as you know, is advisory to planning and zoning. So we need to do that. Secondly, we need to get state approval for construction before we go out for bids. We've already had one very positive meeting with the state regarding our plan. There will be another one, I think, planned now for late February. So we're going down that path very quickly also. And as you've heard several people mention tonight, is late spring, early summer is to go out for bidding so that we can start construction in October. So one is finish up the local regulatory approvals, two, state approval, three, let's go. Let's do our bidding and get started. So I want to be sure to leave you with those next steps, particularly that we're recording this, and we want to be sure to promote it so people can know going away tonight exactly what those next steps are. And then, yes, Claire.
Sorry, could we either ask Slam to share that agenda slide, or would you like me to read the menti.com number that people can use?
I think that's going to come up on our last slide.
Awesome.
Yep, that's going to come up on our last slide, but thank you though. Next is our public hearing, and in fact, maybe we can put up the last slide now in the event anyone would like to send in any final questions. We have three speakers that have signed up for the public hearing, that is to make comments to the committee, which we will hear, not reply, but we'll be sure to hear them and put them in the record. First, we have our first speaker is Ernst Schermer. Is Ernst? Yeah, here right in the front. Yeah, welcome.
And Ernst, I'll let you know when you have 30 seconds left, okay?
All right, thank you. So good evening, everyone. Good evening, committee and all the helpers. Happy New Year. Thank you so much for so much good work. Not an easy project in so many ways, but I just want to express my appreciation. Small item on the committee minutes. You're a bit behind. The last one stayed from October 17, 2023. So I don't know the delay. So maybe if you could catch up a little bit. I obviously appreciate these community forums. They're great, but maybe let's make sure on the website we're equally up to date as well. The main reason why I'm here is I'd like to invite particularly Mr. Tony Turner or anybody else on the committee, or particularly those consultants who worked on the traffic and parking study. You again mentioned tonight the safety is paramount. I really firmly believe the safety is not just within the campus. You're 300 steps away and you're another 600 steps away in another direction of two of the most dangerous intersections that we have in Greenwich. In that parking and traffic study, my own judgment about it is it's mediocre, it's incomplete. But the point is this: we have two intersections nearby that are level of service F. And then the alarm bells should go off in town. I understand you're worried about the campus, but I'm equally concerned about getting to the campus and getting safely home. So, Mr. Turner, whenever the temperature is right for you, 35 degrees, 40, 45 degrees, please join me or another team, and let's bicycle together, let's walk together, and let's look at this at 3D, not on the planning sheets. Because clearly, we had accidents. I reported to you the Juneteenth accident when a car was upside down right by the stop sign. About 4 weeks ago, somebody did not adhere to the stop sign well. Unfortunately for that driver, I'm 63 years old, and I came with more than 30 miles per hour on a non-e-bike, and I almost had a frontal collision. My nose, my teeth were this far away from the window. This is not necessary. We can do better signs. We can work on the lanes. We can work on stripes. We have modern technology. Right now, I'm just not really clear who in the town feels responsible, because if we have a bad accident or a fatality near Central Middle School, we're all in the press. So
30
please help.
seconds.
I would just like you to please, any Saturday when you have time, 6, 7, 8, 9 in the morning, I will be there, but let's go out together and have that conversation out in the nature. Greenwich is beautiful, so let's please do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ernst. Our next speaker is James Walsh. Where is James? Good, thank you.
Hey, good evening, guys, and thank you for all the hard work you've put in over the past year plus here. I also wanted to speak on safety as a father of a daughter here at Central Middle School who walks to and from school most days, and another who will be attending hopefully the new school if it's all up and running on schedule. I think, again, to mirror what Ernst said, there's a lot of safety of the campus, but what about, maybe this is outside your purview, but maybe you can relay it to the proper channels. What about the safety around campus for those who bike, for those who walk, and not just, the immediate intersections at Orchard, which is flooded with kids on the way out, at 3 o'clock, but also even down to that like Fairfield Stanwich intersection, which also receives a lot of foot traffic. And right now you have kind of an awkward stop sign turn situation there with only the stop sign on Fairfield, no stop signs on Stanwich. And I think that might be an accident waiting to happen. I'm no expert, but just it appears to me that there's been some close calls there. So just asking you to, holistically look at the entire area. It looks like maybe one of the slides had a sidewalk on Orchard. I don't know if that's real or not, but maybe look into putting speed tables in, right? Better signed and marked crosswalks, maybe even a speed camera, if possible with the state regulations, and other traffic calming measures to make sure that our students who are biking, who are walking to and from school, not only during school hours, but to sporting events on the weekends or after school, can arrive safely and in one piece. So just asking you to please prioritize those other modes of transportation, not only on the campus itself, but also those surrounding streets leading to the campus, because there is a large catchment area for walkers, for bikers, and other scooters. I've seen every rollerbladers, every mode of transportation on the way to school. So thank you again for your time, and keep up the good work.
Thank you, James. Next is Michael Lulkin. Where is Michael? He may be online. Yeah.
He is online, Michael. You should be able to speak.
Okay, you guys can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. First, I want to recognize the great work that all the volunteers in the committee have done, and even the professionals. Extraordinary efforts and even more extraordinary amounts of time have been spent by these people. I've gone to some of the meetings on Zoom, and I'm very happy that ultimately we'll have a very beautiful Central Middle School that we can be proud of here in Greenwich. However, that being said, the school is being pushed back to the north towards my house. I have a direct view of it, so I have some concerns that I'm not sure have been addressed. So people know it's going past the existing fields, into the ledge, into the hill, going up about as far back as it can go, as permitted by zoning and the fire department. So I have a few concerns. So the dark sky initiative is something where you don't want to have light pollution. So I'm just wondering about the lighting. And I know that there's been a lighting study, but I'm wondering why in the renderings we don't see where those lights will be. There's been no study of the view from my house, which is up higher than the school will be. And I'll be looking down on this roof that is basically a black roof, sorry, a white roof with black solar panels. So I'll be looking pretty much like an industrial building from my house. I'm wondering if there's any way to mitigate that. There's been talk about screening the equipment on the roof. I'm wondering what that'll do, what that'll look like, and again, why that's not on rendering so that the town and the neighbors can see what that'll look like. Will that screening block the view of the solar panels? What's it going to look like? And talking about what it's going to look like, I've been asking for a year to have views and renderings when you show winter views of the trees. I know there are some winter views of trees in some of the slides that have been presented at the meeting, so I'm wondering why we don't have views of that looking up the hill. When trees are there, everything looks much more beautiful, but as we know, the leaves are only on the trees for about half the year. So what have you guys been doing to consider the views of the people to the north of the school? Also talking about trees and screening, is it possible for you to mark which trees will be removed from the area, and then where trees will be placed? I know that in the planning and zoning submission, there is a tree diagram, but that's really impossible for a regular citizen to understand what's going on. So I'm asking, can it be marked which trees will be removed? A big red X will be helpful.
30 seconds.
Okay, thanks. And then I'm also wondering how do the typical citizen monitor what trees are being removed, and whether that's in accordance with the plans. So I'm sure everybody's going to act in good faith. It's fine. But once the tree's cut down, it's too late to really put it back in any other way. So I'm really asking that you guys consider the view from the north, and that's it. The other thing I'm concerned about, is it possible to get recordings? I know that the Zooms are recorded. I don't see.
Time.
Okay. Well, anyway, thank you all for your help.
Thank you, Michael. The wonderful thing is I haven't heard anything in the questions or comments that either we can't answer or that are currently in flight right now. We'll have an answer very, very soon. So that's very, very good. And I will, Ernst, you and I will visit the school. I'll bring the bagels. Ride your bike. I'll bring the bagels, and we'll go from there. Is there anyone else, Myra, you'd like to comment?
If
Yes.
you don't mind.
Yes, I was just going to say, if we do have anyone else that would like to make a comment, though we had a sign-up period, I think it's extremely important that we hear from anyone else that would like to comment. So with that, Myra Klockenbrink, you're here at the podium, so go ahead.
Thank you, Tony. Good evening, everyone, professionals, committee. It will not surprise you to learn that we are disappointed that geothermal HVAC was not selected for this brand new building. It was a once generation opportunity for this committee to take the town into the 21st century and provide a template for the energy systems of our town's buildings and schools. When the committee began this process, they made the significant decision to engage an architect that could provide a net zero ready building. But in following the process, this decision was not prioritized or integrated into the decision making. I am not a construction manager, but I have read the widely available literature on creating a net zero building, and it is clear that factors such as EUI and carbon emission targets needed to be determined early on. It was concerning that none of these target conversations took place in the committee in a time frame that would make them achievable. In November, very late in the process, we brought a professional in to educate the committee about the federal cash incentives available for a geothermal system, a minimum of 50% of the cost in a federal direct payment. It was clear the committee was unaware and uneducated about these incentives, nor will 1 cent of them be available for the gas-fired system selected. In an earlier forum, the committee stated that in determining whether to build geothermal HVAC, they would be guided by cost and energy efficiency. But in our experience, there was very little appetite for geothermal in spite of strong recommendations by the professionals they have engaged. This will be a beautiful building and a contribution to our committee, but it will come at a cost to our operating budgets, and even more significantly, in the many thousands of tons of greenhouse gases it will emit over its lifetime. So while this building is being built for our future, students, it is not being built for their future. Thank you. We appreciate your service to our town.
Thank you, Myra, for your comments. Is there anyone else before we move to adjournment? Tina, go ahead. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Hi, good evening. I wasn't planning on speaking, so I'll just be really quick because I usually don't wing these things. My name is Dina Urso. I'm president of PTA this year here at Central. I have 2 boys here, and I'll have a 3rd one coming up in the somewhat near future, hopefully sooner rather than later. In any case, I have followed all your meetings. I feel like I know all of you. Thank you. I know I don't see you guys as much as, or you don't see me as much as I see you online. But in any case, something that I thought was kind of put to bed, but I'm understanding is maybe coming back up is the removal of the outcropping. And I just wanted to restate that while we spoke to a lot of parents, a lot of people that we know from town, from the feeder schools, the predominant feedback over the months was that it was really important that it be removed from a safety point of view more than anything else, especially after we had that scare a few weeks, maybe 2 or 3 months ago in October, right before the P&Z hearing. So in any case, we've heard a lot of safety concerns about surrounding streets and traffic and geothermal. As a parent currently and in the future, that to me personally is one of the most important things. I don't see any advantage of keeping that. I don't think many parents do. And I think that there was a compelling argument for many different reasons to have it fully removed. So I just wanted to reiterate that. Thank you.
Dina, thank you. I saw a hand behind the podium okay, Julie, come on up. It's very popular to have last minute speakers, is it not?
Sorry.
Okay, Julie, go ahead.
Good evening. First, I'd like to thank the building committee and professionals for the countless hours and efforts to create a beautiful building for our community. I understand that you have a difficult task before you, and not everyone will agree with your every decision. I feel our community has lost a huge opportunity to reduce energy usage, save money, and cut our carbon footprint. While net zero energy was a stated priority out of the gate, the pursuit of this goal went awry. We are now stuck with corn, yes, corn, for decades to come. Months ago, I stood before this group and read an Asante proverb. If you want to plant something for me, plant peanuts, not corn. Planting peanuts is a forward-looking, long-lasting decision by the farmer, while corn is uprooted and destroyed every season. The gas-fired HVAC system is the corn, polluting, expensive, and less efficient, while renewable geothermal that promotes student health and learning is the peanut. As I did my homework on geothermal systems in Connecticut schools, I discovered that 4 of 5 Waterford schools have geothermal systems, which were installed between 2008 and 2013. Their director of building and grounds shared with me, quote, "You can put as many solar panels and windmills as you want, but geothermal is real. It's going to save you money, and you're going to have the best indoor air quality in the building by far. I can't stress enough that it's the best way to go." And I'll leave you with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. I see 2 more hands. We'll limit it to that. Sir, why don't you go first? Come on up. And then we'll have closing remarks and adjourn.
Please state your name for the record when you start. Thank you.
Name's Stephen Hall, Greenwich resident. I appreciate all the effort you guys have put into this. I've been around the block on doing this for my whole career. I was on the energy task force that preceded EMAC for about a year. So I do appreciate all the public service that you guys have been putting in. I want to second the motions or the opinions of the preceding speakers. It's just incredibly sad to me that we'll have a beautiful building, but it will be a brown spot of pollution on the map, as was the Eastern Greenwich Civic Center unnecessarily in both cases. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our last speaker, and if we can get your name for the record, that would be great.
Shiro Nogaki, and I live on 219 Orchard Street Road across the street. I just want to thank you guys for raising, well, all of you for dealing with all of us. It's a lot. And thank you guys for raising the safety issue. You know, our house was struck by a car, and it's extremely, you see it every day. I know that there's an entrance on the north side and exit on the south side. I just want to, I think it would be helpful to get a little more details, because on the exit side where the school buses are coming out, I don't know what the designs of whether if you're widening the street or not, it's not wide enough for the bus to turn. It's just, you know, you could, so my other question is, have you taken any input or feedback from the drivers, school bus drivers, of all this traffic, you know, congestion, and where they see the people speeding? So I think it'll be something that I like to raise, and, you know, I'll be happy to walk with you guys on Sunday. I'm there. Thank you.
We might have a parade with that. Thank you for your comments. As I said earlier, we will be, I'm sorry. One more hand? Sure. Yeah, quickly. We always want to hear from
Thank you.
everyone. Yes.
I guess I came to one of your earlier hearing sessions, and
Can we get your name?
Michael Wolfson.
Michael Wolfson,
I'm
thank
a resident
you.
on Coachland Plan,
Uh-huh.
and I'd like to second all the comments about external safety. Orchard Street is a disaster as it exists today with the curves. You can't see very far, and you are impacting 20 homes on Coachland Lane and a dozen more on Orchard Street that will it will be impossible for them to egress their, you know, to leave their homes. And as it is, it's impossible for all of us who walk around the school. And I just think that any more traffic that you add to Orchard Street is not only dangerous, it's deadly. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So I want to urge everyone to go to the Central Middle School Building Committee website. It should be just within a few, not before the week is out, but sometime next week, certainly before next week is out, to please look for the answers to your questions. Your questions will be posted, of course. You'll see a video of tonight's meeting posted, as well as the answers to the questions, and also a copy of the slide deck will be posted. And to be sure that you know where that is, the Central Middle School Building Committee website, you first have to go to Greenwich Public Schools website. And then if you look at buildings and facilities, or maybe I have that reversed, finding the Central Middle School Building Committee link is will be on your far left column, and you'll see a lot of information. You'll see a lot of information there. Just look under community engagement. And you'll see your answers. And as I said earlier, I'm not hearing anything that we haven't already talked about in our committee, or that's in flight right now. So, for instance, today we met with the most senior people in the police department to talk about the rock outcropping and their view on that. So that's one example of something that's in flight. On your screen is not only the Mentimeter QR code, I think. If we can go, okay, it's there. So if you want to communicate with the committee, we do have a Gmail email account set up. You see that on your screen. You also see the GPS website information if you want to connect later. I see one final remark, and then we'll adjourn. I see a couple of members of the committee that are online and one is here. And that is, we have several members on the committee that are ex officio members. That they serve on the committee representing a different group in the community with a view that either they're voting or not voting, and their real role is to communicate back to their group any concerns that the committee might have or vice versa. And I just want to recognize 4 people. First is Laura Costin. Laura has been our Board of Education rep. She's here on the front row. Dan Watson, who's been the superintendent's designee on the committee ex officio. He is the facilities director for Greenwich Public Schools. We have a Planning and Zoning Commission member on the panel or on the committee, Dennis Yeski. And of course, Lauren Rabin. Lauren Rabin is our Board of Selectmen designee to the committee. She was instrumental in helping us move the MI application ahead. So number one, I want to be sure to recognize them and say thank you, but also echo that ex officio members, they're very, very important and they work. And so far, our system has been working. We have 3 additional members of the community, or really very local to the school campus, of neighborhood liaisons, be it Susan Rudolph, Rachel Coven, and Warren Silver. You all might know them. They attend all of our meetings. We ask them to communicate back to neighbors and vice versa. So that system is in place. It's working well. If you see them, do 2 things. Number one, bend their ear about whatever you want to about the project, but also say thank you, if you will. Okay, anybody else on the panel here have anything? We're all good? Claire?
Just wanted to add, so for the questions, the email address is it's running all the time. We just say if you have questions related to tonight's presentation, especially because your questions will really be helpful and add to the Q&A document that we're going to create. If you send a regular email in, it doesn't go into the Q&A. The ones you send through the Mentimeter do.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to call adjournment for the Central Middle School Building Committee at 8:28. Thank you, everyone, for attending and braving the low double digits outside. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night.